All right, so I'm going to start here by going over the answer key to this two-step equation worksheet. All right, I will go slowly through a couple of them, and then the other ones I'm just going to show the answers. It'll all be posted in Classroom later today, so you can go back and look at it. All right, so solving two-step equations, there are two operations that need to be undone to get the variable by itself. Right, to get the variable by itself, I can't undo this multiplication until I have it by itself. I have to undo this plus 1. So I undo that by subtracting 1 from both sides of the equation. Anything I do to one side, I do to the other side. That leaves me with 2x equals 8 on this side. To undo multiplication, I divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals 4. That's my solution. 4 is the value of x that makes this equation true, I think. Let's check it. So I'll rewrite the equation with 4 instead of x. This is the required start of the check. I put a question mark on the equal sign because I'm not sure these are equal. I'm trying to find out. So I'm going to simplify both sides. This side is just 9. There's no operations to do this year or next year. No, next year you'll get some, where there'll be stuff to do on both sides of the check, but not this year. So I just have to simplify over here. 2 times 4 plus 1 is 8 plus 1, and 8 plus 1 equals 9. So my solution is correct. Okay? This problem is worth 1, 2, 3, 4 points on a test or quiz. 1 for doing the same thing to both sides here. 1 for the correct answer. 1 next equation. 1 for doing the same thing to both sides here. 1 for the final answer, and 1 for the check. Okay? If you mess up arithmetic somewhere, you lose a half a point. If you miss a step, do the wrong thing, you lose 1 point out of 5. Okay, so there's lots of partial credit in this particular unit. Don't worry that you get the answers wrong. As long as you show the steps and go through the entire process, you'll probably get most of the points. Okay? This one is kind of the same. Subtract from both sides and divide. B equals 3. This one is the same thing. Subtract from both sides. W equals 6. This one has a negative number in front of the variable. Okay, so I still have to subtract to get rid of this plus 24. Subtract 24 from both sides. Many people mess this up. -1 minus 24. Okay, subtractions with positive and negative numbers in them, subtractions with negative numbers in them. I strongly suggest that you write these out horizontally off to the side. This will hopefully kind of inspire you to remember that this is not -23. Okay, it's same change. -1 plus -24 is -25. Okay, so that's a very common mistake when there's negatives and subtractions involved. And if you make that mistake, you lose 1 point out of 5 on this problem. Okay, it's not that big a deal. You just have to keep going, though. You can't quit, because if you stop, then you don't get a point for dividing both sides. You don't get a point for writing an answer. You don't get a point for showing that you know how to do a check. Even if your check is wrong, do the steps and you get the points. Okay? Next one, the same thing is dividing by a negative again. So if you didn't divide by a negative and you got t equals +4 here, let's say you made that mistake. You just divided both sides by 4. And you got t equals 4. Okay? And you made this mistake, your check should show this, right? When you do 4 times 4 minus 2 might equal 14, and you go through and you don't just write 14 equals 14. That's not doing the check. You actually do this arithmetic. -4 times 4 is -16, and -16 minus 2, that's -18. Hey, wait a minute. -18 does not equal 14. Something is wrong. If you leave your work like this, and this is the only mistake you made is you forgot to divide by negative numbers here, or you wrote negatives here, but you wrote your answer as positive, you probably lose a half a point out of 5 on this problem. Even if your check doesn't work and your answer is completely wrong, you'll get 4.5 out of 5 on this problem. A 90%. Okay? So don't stop. Don't go, oh, my answer's wrong, and not write anything out. Do all the steps, and you'll get points for everything that you do correctly, and only lose points for the little mistakes that you make. If it's an arithmetic mistake, -0.5. If it's an algebra step mistake, -1. Okay? That's the key. Okay, now, these are subtractions, right? So to undo subtraction, we add to both sides instead of subtracting. And K equals 5 on number 6. Questions on any of these? Like, I'm not leaving them up, but if you did these problems and you got a wrong answer, that's the important part of this part of class, right? Like, hey, I got this instead, and I can't tell what mistake I made. That's when you need to ask a question. If you can tell what mistake you made, then don't make it again, right? That's why we practice. And if you didn't do the homework, then this is not really very useful for you, because you have no idea whether you know how to do these problems or not because you didn't practice them. And that's a bad plan for learning math. Okay, these 2 problems are the 2 problems on the worksheet that are divisions instead of multiplications. Instead of 3 times x here, it's x divided by 3. And so for these, you undo, the first step is the same, undo addition by subtracting, but then you undo this division by 3, you undo that by multiplying both sides by 3. And you get x equals 21. If you did this problem and divided both sides by 3, your answer, your check will not work here, right? This one is the same thing. Add 7 to both sides to undo the subtraction, and then multiply both sides by 5, and you should get W equals 100. Much better chance of success here. Okay, this one is a little bit different. The variable is after the constant. Doesn't matter. This is still added on, and we need to get rid of that +9. You still subtract 9 from both sides and get 4b equals 8, and then b equals 2. And the last 2, x equals -2. There's my check. And d equals -2 again. And there's my check. All right. So solving 2-step equations, it's kind of the baseline thing of algebra. Next year, you'll do lots of problems that end up in solving 2-step equations. Algebra 1, Algebra 2, lots of equations. Every equation, no matter how complicated it starts, ends up with a 2-step equation at the end. Okay, so this is kind of the beginning of that